Hello and welcome to GeoTruth. Today we are going to look at the moon on October 14th, 2023.
Look at him, he's heading for that small moon.
I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
It's too big to be a space station.
On October 14th, 2023, the moon is in its new moon phase. On October 14th, 2023, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, around time 13:01, which is 1:01 p.m., pictures and videos of the moon were taken using a Nikon P1000 camera. We will observe the pictures and videos taken with a Nikon P1000 camera, compare them with mainstream science's pictures and graphics of the moon. Using the astronomical data from the United States Naval Observatory altitude and azimuth of the sun or moon during one day, we will first locate the actual sun and moon's locations on the Earth when the Nikon P1000 pictures were taken. Based on the navigational data of the United States Naval Observatory, our observations of the sun and moon from September 29th through October 13th, and first Enoch's descriptions of the sun and moon, the sun and moon are luminaries or lights. The sun is not a gaseous fireball and the moon has no mass. The sun's elevation above sea level is always 3,107 miles. The moon's elevation above sea level is always 3,062 miles. The sun and moon are the same size, around 30 miles in diameter. The moon is always around 45 miles below the sun. Based on the navigational data of the United States Naval Observatory, our observations of the sun and moon from September 29th through October 13th, and first Enoch's description of the electromagnetic relationship between the sun and the moon, a lunar cycle occurs every 29.5 days when the sun laps the moon. At full moon, the sun is farthest away from the moon and the moon is full of light. As the sun moves closer to the moon loses more of its light. At new moon, the sun has lapped the moon and the moon has no light, is void of anything, and is invisible. We will locate the moon's coordinates first. The first row in the table shows the moon's altitude is 90 degrees, or directly above, at minus 7.70 latitude and minus 78.75 longitude. We will use these coordinates to locate the moon on the circular level plane Gleason's map. On October 14th, the moon is 0% illuminated. The first row in the table shows the sun's altitude is 90 degrees, or directly above, at minus 8.22 latitude and minus 78.75 longitude. We will use these coordinates to locate the sun on the circular level plane Gleason's map. The moon is shown as a white circle and is located at minus 7.70 latitude and minus 78.75 longitude on the circular level plane Gleason's map. The sun is shown as a yellow circle and is located at minus 8.22 latitude and minus 78.75 longitude on the circular level Gleason's map. The sun and moon are on the same longitude line, which means the sun is lapping the moon at 13:01, which is 1:01 in the afternoon. Also, the moon is located at minus 7.70 latitude and the sun is located at minus 8.22 latitude, which is a separation of 0.52 degrees of latitude, which equals 36 miles. This means at time 13:01 on longitude line minus 78.75, the moon is 3,062 miles above sea level and is 36 miles north of the sun, and the sun is 3,107 miles above sea level. Based on the navigational data from the United States Naval Observatory, this is the elevation view of the sun and moon at 90 degrees altitude on longitude line minus 78.75 at time 13:01, which is 1:01 in the afternoon. Both the sun and the moon are right above the longitude line at the same time. We see the moon crossing over longitude line minus 78.75 at latitude line minus 7.70, which is 532 miles south of the equator and is 2,862 miles south of latitude plus 33.74. The moon is shown 3,062 miles above sea level. We see the sun crossing over longitude line minus 78.75 at latitude line minus 8.22, which is 36 miles south of the moon, 568 miles south of the equator, and 2,898 miles south of the latitude line plus 33.74. The sun is shown 3,107 miles above sea level. The moon is always 45 miles below the sun as shown here and is always invisible during its new moon phase. Therefore, it is impossible for the moon to block or cover the sun and the sun's light. Based on the navigational data from the United States Naval Observatory, this is the altitude angle to the sun and moon from latitude line plus 33.74 on longitude line minus 78.75 at time 1301, which is 1:01 in the afternoon. The altitude angles to the moon and the sun are almost the same. However, since the moon is void of any light during its new moon phase, the moon is invisible and has no ability to block or cover the sun and the sun's light. Based on the navigation data from the United States Naval Observatory, this is the view of the sun and moon looking directly south, or 180 degrees azimuth, along longitude line minus 78.75 at time 1301, which is 1:01 in the afternoon. The moon is always 45 miles below the sun, as shown here, and is always invisible during its new moon phase. Therefore, it is impossible for the moon to block or cover the sun and the sun's light. Now let's compare the locations of the sun and moon from September 29th to October 14th. On September 29th, the sun is farthest from the moon, and the moon is in its full moon phase, full of light and 100% illuminated. On October 6th, the sun continues to move closer to the moon and is approximately 90 degrees of longitude east of the moon, which is approximately 6 hours away from the moon. At this time, the moon is in its last quarter phase and is approximately 51% illuminated. On October 14th, the sun has lapped the moon and is on the same longitude line. The moon is 45 miles below the sun and is 36 miles north of the sun. The moon is in its new moon phase. The moon is 0% illuminated, has no light, is void of anything, and is invisible. Here is mainstream science's false depiction of the moon during the new moon phase. Let's take a look at the pictures and videos taken with the Nikon P1000 on October 14th. Since I knew during the new moon phase the moon has no light, is invisible, and is very close to the sun, I was going to take a few pictures and video of the sun using a sun filter to protect the camera lens. I set up the camera around 12 noon and took the first picture at 12:08. I was very surprised to see what I saw. A black orb was starting to block the sun on the upper right side of the sun. I knew the, quote, annular solar eclipse was occurring in the western United States, but didn't think there would be any occurrence in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The first observation is that we know the true moon is 45 miles below the sun at all times, and during a new moon is invisible and therefore could never block or cover the sun. Yet we see this black orb starting to block the sun from an elevation higher than the sun, which tells us this orb is not the moon. It's interesting that all, quote, solar eclipses always occur during a new moon when the moon has no light and is invisible. The moon being invisible at this time would allow an event to occur like this black orb phenomena posing as the moon. Next, this picture will be used to show the actual location of the moon, which is based on the navigational data from the United States Naval Observatory. Here we see the actual location of the sun and the location of the unknown orb phenomena posing as the moon. Shown in a dashed circle is the actual location of the moon, which is 45 miles directly below the sun. The moon is in its new moon phase, 0% illumination, no light, void of anything, invisible. The phenomena we are observing blocking the sun during a, quote, solar eclipse is something else other than the moon.
Look at him, he's heading for that small moon.
I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
It's too big to be a space station.
Pictures and videos of this unknown phenomena were able to be taken until around time 1344, which is 1:44 in the afternoon. Heavy cloud cover moved in at that time, preventing pictures and videos from being taken. Here are some pictures of the unknown phenomena up to time 1344. The unknown orb phenomena is moving in front of the Sun from the upper right side of the Sun down to the lower left side of the Sun. Next is a video of the unknown orb phenomena moving in front of the Sun at time 1301. Next is a video of the unknown orb phenomena continuing its movement in front of the Sun starting at time 1328. During the video, clouds start to move in and the clouds filter the Sun's light, allowing us to see the dark pinholes on the surface of the Sun. When using double sun filters on the Nikon P1000 camera, these dark pinholes are able to be seen on many locations on the Sun's surface. When looking at these pictures and videos of the Sun, it is purely a light. Mainstream science tells us that the Sun is a gaseous fireball with sunspots causing, quote, solar flares. The sunspots mainstream science shows is actually these dark pinholes. However, they are never any, quote, solar flares occurring. Also, these dark pinholes on the surface of the Sun are always in the same location. In addition, the Sun's disk rotates clockwise 1 revolution per day, and one can see these dark pinholes move clockwise, and they are always in the same orientation on the surface of the Sun. These dark pinholes most likely are part of the electromagnetic charging and discharging relationship between the Sun and the Moon, with the Sun being a positive charge and the Moon being a negative charge. The navigational data from the United States Naval Observatory shows these locations in the United States where the Moon and the Sun have the same altitude angle and azimuth angle to experience either a, quote, total solar eclipse or a, quote, annular solar eclipse. The occurrence of, quote, eclipses are very limited. The Moon is completely invisible during its new moon phase and therefore cannot block anything. The unknown black orb phenomena we observe blocking the Sun is something other than the Moon. Here are the observations and conclusions previously shown concerning the Sun and Moon throughout this moon-lunar cycle. Yet mainstream science tells us during a, quote, solar eclipse, the Moon is perfectly aligned between the Sun and the Earth to totally block the Sun, and the Moon's side facing the Earth can't be seen because the Sun is lighting the other side of the Moon, commonly known as the dark side of the Moon. Mainstream science's depiction of the Moon as a spherical mass reflecting sunlight is not true and therefore a lie. Mainstream science's explanation of, quote, solar eclipses with the Moon blocking the Sun is not true and therefore a lie. We do observe a black orb phenomena blocking the Sun during, quote, solar eclipses. It's very interesting that the black orb appears to be the same size as the Sun. The word eclipse is never mentioned in Almighty God's scripture concerning the Sun and Moon. Next, we will look at the Moon's lunar cycle on October 15th. Goodbye.